You're listening to the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy, alternative DVD commentaries. Our film for today is called Time Chasers from 1994, also known as Tangents. Hello, my name is Josh, and I'm alone in the Soulless Minions studios this evening. My usual cohort in crime, Justin, could not be here today, but I'm very pleased to be doing this solo, as I like this film very much. I'm very enthusiastic about it, so I hope that I can bring you a little bit more joy with my commentary. If you'd like to watch this movie with me, the sync point for this commentary is going to be the first black frame after the title card, which reads an Edgewood Entertainment Limited production. As soon as that title card fades away, it goes to black, so pause there. I'll give you a countdown, and when I say 3, 2, 1, unpause, we'll both unpause together and watch the movie in sync. Now, if you want to watch this movie with me, you're going to have to own the DVD, or VHS, of course. I own the 20th anniversary edition DVD, but I believe the VHS copy will work as well. This will not work with the Mystery Science Theater version of the film. You'll have to own the original theatrical version of the film in order to be in sync with me. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to give you a countdown, as I said, so here it comes. 3, 2, 1. Unpause. A Peter Beckwith production. A David Gene Cola film. Alright, well, here we go. Tangents, the original title, but mostly everyone knows this is Time Chasers. Alright, well, before we get too deep into this film, I want to talk about this opening here. On the deleted scenes portion of the DVD, you'll see that there is some cut scenes, and one of them, actually all of them, I found to be very good. I was wondering why they were cut. David G. and Cola mentioned that they were cut because of pacing issues, but I found them all to be very good. I thought they added a lot to the characters of the story of Time Chasers, and I thought, hey, you know, they only take up about 10 minutes, and this movie isn't that long, about an hour and a half, so why not? Should have kept them in there, in my opinion. I thought they worked, all of them. And the first one that is shown on the disc is the cut scene of it's the prologue, where it shows the character of Nick, which we see here, kissing his plane. It shows the character of Nick Miller and Lisa Henson as children, about 9 or 10 years old, it seems. Nick is kind of a young scientist even back then, and he's experimenting with a time travel looking wagon like he had, and he and Lisa pushes him down a hill, and he's hoping to, I guess, like the DeLorean in Back to the Future, go 88 miles per hour and go back in time or into the future or whatever. And it doesn't work, of course, and he ends up crashing, but it's actually kind of funny because he actually loses consciousness, and he wakes up and he finds out that 10 minutes has passed, and he thinks that he's actually traveled through time, when in effect he's just been unconscious. But it was actually kind of a cute scene. One of the reasons he cut it is because of the dubbing was kind of off, because of the actors' voices had changed. The two young kids, their voices had changed, so the dubbing didn't quite work. But I liked the scene a lot, and it was kind of a shame that it wasn't attached, because I think it actually added a lot to the character of Nick here on his 10 speed, and Lisa, showing their. I mean, it's mentioned that they'd known each other in high school, but that scene showed that, oh, they actually knew each other way back when they were little kids too. And he was way into this science and technology stuff way back when. You know, he had dreams even when he was a kid. You know, I thought it was nice. But okay, with all that aside, here's our hero, Nick Miller. And there was another cut scene. This movie's going by really fast, so I'm gonna try to address a lot of these cut scenes as they come. There was a cut scene which actually I thought worked really well, just like the opening, where here, you know, he's already discovered time travel, but here you see he's watching TV. You think you'd be excited, and he was. And there was a scene where you see him on the phone in his kitchen, calling newspapers like a National Enquirer and universities, trying to get people interested in coming to look at his time transports. But nobody believes him, so he kind of gives up, and that's when you see him lying here on the couch, because he's kind of given up in defeat here. But here, J.K. Robertson, the CEO of GenCore. GenCore Innovators.
really can't afford to live without them.
But
And neither can you.
about this movie, as I said, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of this movie.
New technology development, please.
And here we go. This is the kind of next scene
Yes, hello.
of him in the kitchen without a shirt on, because it's the morning now. But anyway, I'm a big fan of this movie. Because of Mystery Science Theater 3000, I have to admit that, yes, that's where I first saw it back in the late 90s when I was a teenager. I was still am a huge Mystery Science Theater fan. I love the show, own many of their box sets. And when this movie showed on the Sci-Fi Channel, I thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was hilarious. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. And I became almost obsessed with it. I wanted to know, not just because I thought it was funny, but I wanted to know everything I possibly could about the people that made this film. This film called Time Chasers. Where was it shot? Who played Nick Miller? Who plays Lisa Henson here? This is Lisa Henson being introduced. Wearing two different kinds of plaid, but that's okay. In a K car. But who are these people? How much did it cost to make this? I mean, I wanted to go to Vermont, which is where I found out they shot this movie, in Rutland, Vermont. I wanted to go to Vermont, visit the locations, the airport here. I was just so fascinated by it because it was obviously shot on such a low budget, and you could tell that only sheer willpower and determination allowed them to get this movie finished. And that just made me appreciate it so much. And it was really funny. I gotta admit, watching the Mystery Science Theater version was funny. But I've really come to an appreciation for just the film itself later in life. As I said, now I'm watching the 2-disc 20th anniversary DVD edition, which is excellent, by the way. If you're watching this on VHS and you don't own it, why the hell not? It's awesome. It has a great commentary by the director, David Giancola, and Bonnie Pritchard and Nick Brew. So definitely check it out. And deleted scenes, retrospective documentary. It's great. It's great stuff. It's the character of Matthew Paul. He's with GenCorp.
This is Lisa Henson. She's with our local newspaper.
He's coming to look at the fuel intake. Now, the fuel intake was already set up in the previous scene by the character of Morty. He actually installed the fuel intake, and he's using that as a ruse to get Matthew Paul to come out and look at the Cessna, at the TTP, the Time Transport, or TTP, as J.K. Robertson will call it. And Lisa Henson thinks she's checking out a skydiving grandmother. So he figured the only way he can get someone to come look at this thing was to lie. But it works.
Now, the real reason I brought you both up here today. You see,
Now, as I mentioned, this movie gained a lot of notoriety for being on Mystery Science Theater. But I think it's kind of a shame that it's known primarily through that, because it's known, I think, as being on IMDb is in the bottom 100. I'm like, good lord, really? That's just a travesty, sir, because this movie is not that bad. It's actually pretty good. With the resources that they had, it's just amazing what they were able to accomplish. People working for peanuts or nothing, volunteers, sticking it out. It's just amazing that they were able to do this back in the 90s.
I know you both think I'm full of it.
Yeah, I find it just a real credit to determination, just a passion for filmmaking. But actually, this was the first independent feature shot exclusively in Vermont. And David Giancola was actually 19 or 20 when he started making this. I'm like, man, that is amazing. What was John Singleton about that same age when he made Boys in the Hood? This guy was fresh out of high school and he was already making movies. That's quite an accomplishment. But about this techno babble here, I kind of like this. Let's see if I can get this lingo down. Let's see.
50 years.
The PC in the airplane, the Cessna, is attached to molecule accelerators attached to the skin of the plane and the computer runs equations at 8 picoseconds. The computer signals molecules accelerate, which accelerates, charging the skin of the plane, making time travel possible, like the flux capacitor. And of course, reversing the polarity, which is a big phrase in technobabble, allows the plane to travel back into the past. But as I was saying, yeah, he made this movie when he was 19 or 20, which is quite a big accomplishment. So my hat's off to him. But yeah, there's 2041, and they look at that, kids with cell phones. This movie predicted the future, and the future of 2041 is actually very environment friendly. I mean, look at this. Everyone's riding bikes and walking. So maybe Nick had something to do with the future. You know, he influenced the future some way, because Nick is big on riding bikes. He doesn't drive. Oh, there's the same kid with the phone again, but that's okay.
I don't believe this.
Papagino's.
This is 2041.
This is 2041.
Nick, you did it.
You are a genius.
You've been working on this all your
Now there's
life.
3 different versions of this film. There's the theatrical version, the international version, and then the MST3K version. Now the MST3K version was the version that I was familiar with for the longest time. And that actually has a lot of scenes cut out of the movie. And actually, the scenes they cut out, it's a shame because it actually fleshes out the story a lot more. So I was a bit confused the first time I saw this movie unedited, which wasn't when I bought this DVD. I actually saw this on a cable channel very early in the morning, and it had a lot of scenes. I'm like, what are these scenes? I've never seen this before. I was just amazed that the movie was getting played. I was like, I have to tape this. The original version, I have to tape it. So I taped it, and it was amazing. I was like, oh my God, this movie makes much more sense now. This is great. And it kind of it was the first step that led me to the path of seeing the true joy of this film. And here's one of the scenes I was talking about, the MST3K version cut out, the coffee. He's explaining how one thing affects another, and it leads to tangents. You know, that's where the film gets its name. Of course, he didn't mention tangents yet. That comes later. But one thing affects another, kind of in essence, the butterfly effect is how they put it. He uses the metaphor of a coffee cup and spoons stirring the coffee cup. One thing affects another. One spoon, many spoons. No reference to the Matrix there. But I always found this a little odd. Why does he need an R&D grant if he's already made the breakthrough? I mean, it seems like he's already got this thing working. So why does he need more money? I'm not sure. For more research, seems like he's already got it. He's got it all worked out. But here we go. The first harbinger here. Matthew Paul is seeing you see the look on her face. Matthew Paul is having the first thought of, oh, we can use this to make money.
Listen, Nick, I'm going to go over the heads of my bosses here and take this directly to J.K. Robertson.
The CEO of Gen
This is exactly what Nick wanted. He wanted him to go to JK so he can get his R&D grant. That's what he's going to get.
Personally, if I have to.
That would be great.
All right.
I take it we're ready to go.
Now, this movie was originally shot in 1990, and it came out in 1994. So think about that. It wasn't because it was shelled or anything like that. It was just because production took a long time, because this movie was shot on weekends primarily to accommodate everyone's like work schedule, because they all had day jobs, and these people, a lot of them near the end, weren't getting paid a lot of money. So they did this out of love. So throughout, I think, a year and a half or something like that, they shot this movie on weekends, and then they edited it for a while, and so eventually it got released in 1994, but I think they had a screening around 1992 in Vermont. And from what I could tell on the bonus features, everyone who saw it loved it. You know, they thought it was great. It was nice seeing their hometown on the big screen, and looked like a whole lot of fun. I mean, this was a big event, and I wish I could have been there. It looked like a lot of fun. I mean, I live in a suburb of LA, and I've never seen a movie made here, you know, but if someone did, I'd go see it.
You're turning me down.
I'm not interested in working.
But there was a cut scene there I wanted to mention, not here, in the previous scene, when Matthew Paul gets up and says, I have to go make a call to J.K. Robertson. There's a cut scene that happened between that and this scene here. See, here we see that J.K. has already been shown the time transport. We don't see him actually in the past, but the cut scene actually shows him in the past with Nick. And after that scene, when they walk away from the Papagenos, they go up, walking up a stairway, and it stays on the shot. Then it pans down, and you see Nick again with J.K. looking at his past self. And J.K.'s like, oh, but this was the past future. He's like, yes, this was me earlier this morning when I was showing it to Lisa and Matt. He's like, oh, okay, awesome. So it's actually, I thought it was pretty clever way of doing that. I thought it was neat. Just a funny way of doing time travel. It's just one of those funny little things you can do with a time travel story, run into your past self. And I thought it was neat. And I didn't find it confusing at all. I mean, David Giancola said during the bonus features interview that people were a bit confused. I didn't find it confusing. I thought it worked.
You're right. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
But yeah, Lisa's already getting a little reticent. She doesn't want him to get involved with JK here. She knows he's up to no good. He offered her a job.
I want to see you in an office on my floor first of the week.
Yes, sir.
And Matthew Paul is going to be climbing the corporate ladder.
If they are
This is another one of the scenes. It's
these clandestine photos have no credibility
It's been cut.
whatsoever. No credibility.
adds a lot more character to actually cut from the MST3K version. But adds more credence to Lisa's character. Shows that she had a bit of an ulterior motive at first, because at first she just kind of falls in love with Nick. But here it shows, oh, she actually did have a motive, which was to get photos, to go to the future with him and get photos, and to prove to her boss, hey, I'm not completely full of crap here. I know this dude who invented this time machine. And so at first she goes not with the intent of actually falling in love with him. It's already being transferred over. Gencor is an evil corporation. They're up to no good. Now, I think it was actually a wise choice by David Giancola to have Matthew Brew play Nick Miller, because he doesn't seem to be a typical hero. They joke about that. Oh, he looks like he plays a junior college teacher. So if you're teaching physics, that's what he does. So it's kind of ironic, just and it's called it, just against type, that this guy seemingly looking kind of nerdy would play our hero, and that's a big joke in the Mystery Science Theater alternate track. But I thought it's kind of a neat choice. Don't go with a typical looking action hero, kind of muscle bound. Go with the kind of geeky science professor. Why not? And he's wearing a Castleton shirt, and from what I've discovered on the internet, Castleton is a real place. It's not made up. I mean, I live on the West Coast, so I wouldn't know, but it is a real place. It's the 18th oldest institution of higher learning in the U.S. But I wish I did own a Castleton t-shirt, but I don't. But I think Edgewood Studios does sell them. I think, and if I read correctly on the IMDb, that Castleton actually gave T-shirts to the production in hopes of, promoting their university. But it didn't become the movie didn't become more of a hit until I guess it premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel, but was well known in the area. But also in that cut scene that I mentioned, where Nick takes JK to the past and they run into their past selves, there is a brief reference as to why the time machine is a plane, which isn't explained in theatrical cut, but in that cutscene, it explains why. Well, Nick explains why. Excuse me. He says, "Oh, because as times change, mountains grow, roads change, so being in the air would be safer, something like that." But of course, there's the whole time travel bit of, well, the Earth moves around the sun, so the Earth wouldn't be in the same position anyway, so whatever. But they actually do attack that subject as to why is the time machine a plane. And yeah, that's feedback from a video monitor. Yeah, I think I did that when I was a kid too with my old camcorder. But the computer in his plane is actually an Amiga.
I don't know.
And
Well, it says September 25th.
I was about 10 years old when this movie was being made. And I remember, I think our first computer was a Mac Classic. And a bit more advanced than that. I thought computers were a bit beyond where this one was, but I don't know, maybe not. And floppy disks, I remember floppy disks. But I don't think I ever had them.
Something's happened. Future's been changed. We gotta find out what happened.
Did you bring your ray gun?
This was actually, I believe, an abandoned warehouse, if I got that right. And now it is the offices of Edgewood Studios. Right now it is, anyway. And many of the first times, it makes no sense. Many of the times I saw this in repeated viewings, I did not notice that in the background there is a torn Back to the Future poster. I just didn't notice. You think I would notice, but I didn't. There it is, right there. It's clear as day.
The city is totally destroyed.
Yeah. Looks like it's been this way for a while.
There's got to be someone around still somewhere.
I'm Nick, and this is...
Yeah, I think we missed the other cut scene, and it happened prior to this when they're in the 50s. After the diner scene, you show them walking down a street, and from that street they go to a park where he and Lisa sit down on a bench, and she explains herself, and you see that they're getting a little bit more intimate. And she had mentioned that she was doing a report or an expose on GenCore about double-hulled tankers, and the double-hulled tankers were actually mentioned by JK in the TV commercial you see when Nick is lying on his couch. He mentions double-hulled tankers, and she did something where she did an expose on that and exposed GenCore and for not having double-hulled tankers. I guess as a result of that report, they actually did get double-hulled tankers. But anyway, as her doing that expose, people lost their job, and she felt really bad. But that's where she got the first inkling, I guess, about GenCore. And you see them kind of bond a little bit. You get to get inside her mind a little bit more. And as they get up, she throws her camera away. Her camera that she had bought in another cutscene after they had met at the grocery store. She wanted to get some pictures of the future to show her boss, as I already mentioned, but she throws it in the trash, and Nick is none the wiser. But you see that she's made a turn, and it was a big turning point for her character, and I really liked it. As I said, I liked all the deleted scenes, and I really wish they would have stayed in the movie. I mean, it would have only extended it about 10 minutes. Why not? And this is another scene here that was cut from the MST3K version. Adds a little bit more to this character. You actually get to see him talk. In the Mystery Science Theater version, he's just shot. Here, he's actually the head brute, the head bad guy of this particular area. And I think, according to the commentary, these are all real guns. I guess it was just easier to procure real guns than fake ones.
Tell anyone else about the transport.
Right.
Yeah, that's the character of Richter. The guy wearing the black leather jacket. Yeah, he has an AK-47. I don't know if that's real. Maybe it is. I have no idea who it is.
Want the travelers, Richter? Sorry, Mick, you ain't getting them. You shooting
So they want the travelers. Yeah, it seems even in this feature they know about travelers. Which does pose a bit of a problem, coming to time and time paradoxes. You know, having knowledge of the past when the past has changed. I don't know. We'll get into that here in a moment when we're going to meet two other characters at the end of this foot chase here. This scene was also cut down. The MST3K version cut this down. Makes me wonder how much MST3K cuts out of their movies. Another one, the only other one that I've seen in its original theatrical release was This Island Earth. I mean, This Island Earth was their theatrical release, was the Mystery Science Theater 3000 movie. And funny as heck. And for the longest time, that's all I knew of it. And then I actually saw the original theatrical version. I'm like, they cut this movie to pieces. So I gotta wonder what they do to all the other movies. And as also according to the interviews on the bonus disc, as you'll notice here, you know, Matthew Brew does his own stunts, as does everybody else that cut down on production costs. But Matthew Brew initially went in he's getting hit pretty hard against that wall, and that's really him. Initially went in for the role of stunt coordinator, and not wanting to be the star of the film. And I guess he ended up trying out for different parts. And there you go. He got the lead. So, hey, lucky him.
How do you get out of here? We still don't know what's happened yet. We can work on that later. We gotta get out of here.
Bonnie Pritchard actually she studied theater in New York. If I have my information, her major background was theater. She studied the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and then she went back to Vermont. Ended up, I guess, falling in love, getting married. But later, meeting David Giancola, she got a chance to be in this movie, and continue acting. But her major background was theater, so that's pretty cool.
Someplace we can hide from these gangs.
Yeah, I know a place that's safe. You got any good water?
Yeah, this guy's always looking for water. It seems that water is pretty scarce around Rutland in 2041. Offers some watch. Doesn't need it.
Who needs a watch?
Because he's got a shotgun.
Hey, Bex.
Yeah, it's the character of Betts.
Who are they?
And
The sector. They're travelers.
I forgot her husband's name. I've gone a little blank. But
Stolen.
these two characters. This is another scene that was cut down from the Mystery Science Theater version.
Nobody from around here looks
Yeah,
like
this
you
actually
belong.
explains a little bit more
Stolen, huh?
about how the world of 2041 got to be the way it was because of the time transport, or the TTP.
When did the war start?
War? Which one?
Yeah, which war? There's been many wars.
From?
The 90s.
Look, please, just tell us what happened.
What's happened is obvious.
Not to us.
I used to work for the government. Oh, when we were the only ones who had it, things were great.
Yeah, see, knowing all this adds a little bit more credibility to why things went so bad. I mean, you know, they tried to sell the time transport. Well, they had it for themselves, and they went back and changed wars. But how would they know that if they went back in time and changed wars, so it'd be in their favor or whatnot, or changed other events to be in their favor? Because if you do that, you change the past, and then their memories go with it. So that's a paradox.
What's going on?
And
All these time tangents.
time tangents, right there. There you go. That's where they get the title of the movie, the original theatrical title. But how do you remember these tangents if the past is always changing?
From some base in the past, that company started selling to anybody with the means.
And then,
it came
right
down
here,
to what man is best at.
Gencor selling away the time transport to other countries.
Travelers blew through history, taking all the advantages, completing everything. Leaving the world like this.
So yeah, he's gonna say here, the past is always changing.
Past changes.
Past changes.
Every day now.
Every day. How would he know that? It doesn't make any sense. The past is always changing. He wouldn't know, but hey, that's one of those things about time travel.
Nick?
So things aren't going too well, but
I never should let anyone know about the transport till I had
they
a
have to go
chance
back and
test it.
change things now,
You didn't invent the transport to destroy. We were here before and everything was
which is the
fine.
usual
The future wasn't
the usual
affected.
thing in time travel.
Robertson.
Things usually don't go well. I'll Back to the Future.
I gave the demo of the transport
It caused nothing but disaster.
Yeah,
The
but
same
it must
thing
have been
here.
after that he decided to use the transport to be a
But I find this a movie kind of amazing for its, as I said, for its ability to be a movie. The fact that they had very limited resources, and the fact that they tried to make a movie on such a grand scale with a limited amount of resources that they had. I mean, telling a time travel story with practically no money, really hard. I mean, reportedly this movie cost about $40,000. Reportedly, from what I read, and it ballooned to about $150,000 by its completion, which is a lot of money, but peanuts back then, and even now. And think about that. And this was made in the 90s, and this was about the time that Kevin Smith made Clerks. And he's very well known for producing a movie on a shoestring budget. But they were doing the same thing here, but just on a much bigger scale. So it doesn't take all the money in the world to make a movie. All you need is that willpower, that determination.
What's wrong?
I have a serious problem with the project.
What do you mean? What's so serious?
We need to meet right away.
Of course, he should have known JK was up to no good.
I'll see you in an hour. Fine. See you in an hour.
Look at him, look at that phone. He's like, crap, I'm in trouble here. What am I going to do? I don't think they actually rented a helicopter. I think they just shot the helicopter up in the sky as it flew over the set. But that's okay. So they took a helicopter, a boat, and a limo to get there. Pretty fancy. I don't know if this exterior is the same as the interior, but if it is, let's see, I wrote it down. I wrote down what it actually is. And as soon as I find it, I'll let you know. It's actually the foyer of a opera house.
Not so great.
Although it was joked in the MST3K version to be in a library.
Now, what's the problem?
And that mirror is rather odd, but
Stop the project. Don't be ridiculous.
it's what it said. It's a foyer in a opera house.
To be a weapon.
I am not. How can you say that?
You son of a...
I'm not. It's a bit obvious, but hey.
It's a wasteland. In the future, the world's in anarchy because of its use as a weapon.
The transport.
When you affect history, you affect the future. It causes a tangent.
Right.
I wouldn't say he's actually developing it to be a weapon. He was developing it to make money, I would say, to sell it to the highest bidder. I don't think it was... I think the weapon is a bit a way of simplifying it in a way.
But the only way to be sure
It became a weapon, but I think initially it was just for money. He was just exploiting it for money.
What we need to do is find out.
Now, about the MST3K version,
Now,
as I said, that's where I was introduced, and that's where the film gained a lot of notoriety,
If you don't stop the
which is a
project-
shame. I think it's a good movie. It really is.
No, I'm telling you.
But
If we don't stop now, there'll be no
about that
future,
version,
including you.
I've heard on the MST3K version, and actually
See what you've done.
on some websites and whatnot, that they actually had a party. David Giancola, the stars of the film, cast and crew, had a party when it premiered. When their film premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel as a part of Mystery Science Theater, and apparently it was a downer. Like, they were really excited. David Giancola was really excited that this movie was gonna be broadcast on TV. I would be, and I guess they some of the cast were not happy at all and got kind of drunk and left. But they
This is now a government.
and I reason I bring that up about some cast members not being happy was
I can change anything anytime I want. You read it.
the actor playing J.K. Robertson
Manufacture of any product from the outcome
was
of this
very
contract
unhappy
value or
with
threat to national security.
the MST3K treatments
Appoint a project supervisor. That supervisor has total control over
of this movie. George Woodard, that's his name. He was very unhappy. He's
Appointed supervisor.
thought the movie was much better than that. Didn't deserve treatment like that. But hey, you know.
I think you're right.
And hey, look at this. This guy has an Uzi. He's a member of Gen Corps.
They've just informed me they're
You know, an
going to
employee
train
of Gen
the
Corps, and he has an Uzi. I love that.
I informed them
He
that
says,
now
turn him over to the military attaché. And is he a member of the military attaché, or is he just, you know, a guy working for Gen Corps? I'm not sure.
You know how serious this is.
But I love the fact that he has an
Yes,
Uzi.
I know.
It's like, is that enough? I mean, it could have been just a baton or something, you know. Those security guards carry batons and flashlights. But hey. That's awesome. They have to make their escape here.
Fire your lawyer.
She said, fire your lawyer. For the longest time, I always thought she said, are you a lawyer? But no, it's fire your lawyer. Because his contract was poop. Uh-oh, he's a team player now because he's wearing a suit, a different suit. As you would notice, he was wearing a pink suit in the beginning. But now Matthew Paul is wearing a
Downstairs.
brown suit, white shirt. So here are the lackeys of Gen Corps, as I said, all with Uzis. I like the red alert klaxon.
Great, we're lost.
Whoop, don't cut away yet. Because here they come.
We are definitely found. Left.
See, I guess they could have shot them already, but yeah, well, the movie would be over. So this is where we're kind of in the heavy into the second act of the movie here. See the sign of Gen Corps back there. They actually made their own signs for the movie. It's the logo, it's all over the place. It's a split G and C.
They're both very dangerous people. Absolutely, shoot to kill. I've got a whole building full of people here. I want them taken out.
JK, what's going on?
Yeah, we're deep into the second act where it's a little bit more action-oriented than the first act. But that's okay. The third act is actually where most of the action takes place, but this is it's all right. It's all right. Here's another character that was kind of cut down from the Mystery Science Theater version. The cabbie, the kind of stereotypical New Yorker.
Yes, in the direction we need to go, please.
I think we lost them.
Yeah, for now.
North is not a destination, but a direction. Yeah, his part was cut severely. Yeah, he actually
They copied all my software. They just
is the person that helps them get back into the Rutland State Airport.
That would be great.
We've got to do something. What
Yeah,
do we do?
without the cabbie here,
We've got to go back in
it
time.
wouldn't be so easy.
We've got to stop.
But he has
right
the infamous Chunky Monkey line, which is a Ben and Jerry's joke. But
because if he doesn't
we don't have that. We don't have that on the West Coast. We don't have Ben and Jerry's. But this is Michael J. Valentine, who has been affiliated with the director and writer David Giancola since they were very young. He's worked with him on other projects as well.
Vermont.
Vermont? What's Vermont? Another nightclub?
The state of Vermont.
Vermont?
Green Mountains.
That's almost to Canada. That's quite a ways out of my district, don't you think? That would be very...
You know, during the commentary on this disc, David Giancola mentions that he had just filmed a movie called Illegal Aliens starring the late Anna Nicole Smith. And I haven't seen that, but in kind of preparation for this, I was looking it up and found out that apparently the filming of that movie was pretty tough because she was kind of hard to deal with. She would kind of disappear from set. She was hard to get on set. Same with one of the other stars of the film, but he ended up turning that experience into a documentary called Craptastic, or Addicted to Fame. Apparently he spent many years cutting the film, going back raw footage that was done on set of Aliens. I'd be very interested to see that. I like documentaries a lot.
I'll be home watching Jeopardy.
Here's another scene that was cut from the Mystery Science Theater version, giving the drop on the character of Morty.
And they think they can keep the public from knowing this?
They will if we can't get.
It's all a trick. He thinks that she's telling him the time transport.
Thank you. You told him.
But no.
She was right in telling me you got quite a lady here, Nick. You're a lucky man. I always knew stuff like this went on. You know, like they could invent a light bulb that doesn't burn out. Shoes that don't wear.
Something to do with the environment. And I'm guessing that it's raining outside right now because you can see that on the windshield. Maybe a bit of a continuity error because I don't think it's raining later. But that's okay. It's all good.
Think of the benefits to Mother Earth. We can tell those ragheads to go screw. This is big, Nick. Very, very.
See, this movie's very environment friendly. It's got a message too. Yeah, it's got a message. Don't mess with the past and be nice to the environment. Here we go, back at the airport. GenCorp, lackeys all over the place. They completely taken over. More Uzis. Awesome. See, this is another one of the scene. So yeah, I'm guessing his character's name is Mike. As you can see written on the sign. This is a scene that was cut. You know, this is the distraction that's going to allow Lisa and Nick to get back into the airport. Actually, it's just a G split in half. The sign back there. It wasn't a C and a G. G and a C, I'm sorry. Just a G.
I don't think you fully understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Sorry for the mistake. Here we go. This was his big line. Kill for some chunky monkey. Never had chunky monkey, but apparently it's supposed to be pretty good. There we go. He's gonna be putting on a little act out there, so they can get back in. Yeah, showing off his kung fu skills.
You did tip him, didn't you? Wouldn't take anything. Said he was part of the cause.
He's doing this out of the kindness of his heart. He's benefits of the cause, of course.
We're never gonna get to that plane.
Yes, we are.
What would MacGyver do?
MacGyver. There's the riff about MacGyver.
Device.
MacGyver was still on the air when this movie was being made. Ended in 1992. Went from 85 to 1992. So that joke was a little bit more relevant back then. Not so much now. But I still remember MacGyver. You notice the music here in this scene. Kind of the music uses it's kind of electronic synthesizer throughout most of it. It's not bad for the budget that they had. Considering, you know, when this movie was made, you know, it was much harder to get music made. I mean, you couldn't just go into GarageBand and make music. You had to hire composers. So the fact that they were able to do that, that's pretty commendable. And I always kind of like this ruse she came up with.
What is your N number? It's located straight in front of you on the instrument panel.
One of the things I want to talk about the making of this movie was the budget. I know I mentioned that already, but Peter Beckwith and David Giancola met early on, and before they made this movie, they financed it through credit cards and loans and whatnot to get this movie financed, which is it's a huge leap of faith just to make a movie. Like, you got to be really passionate about that, and I find that just very commendable. I mean, as I said, he was very young. Out of high school, he didn't go to film school. Had no official degree in that. He just, he was making movies when he was a kid in his backyard, just like I did, with my video camera. I made home movies with my friends and with my brothers, and it was just always a whole lot of fun. And by the time I was 19, I mean, I can't remember what I was doing. I don't think I was incredibly productive, but here we have David Giancola right out of high school. He's like, I want to be a filmmaker. I want to make movies. That's my passion. That's what I want to do. I have to do it. Just like a lot of other artists out there. A writer writes always, and a filmmaker makes films. That's what you do. It's in your blood. And if you're passionate about that, and the passion shines through, then I think that's the most important thing. Because one of the things I find so endearing about this film is the passion of performing and of making. It shines through with the cast and with the writer and the director, David Giancola, the producers, the cast and crew, everyone who just worked for nothing near the end just to get this movie made, just because they believed in it. And I wish I'd done the same back then. I had dreams, I had aspirations, and I still do, but I never went out and attempted to achieve it. I wish I'd had, and maybe it's not too late, but I wish I had a time transport like Nick here, so I could go back in time and convince my past self to go ahead and lead a more proactive lifestyle back then. And I'd written scripts and whatnot, but with the intent of filming, but nothing ever came of it. I just didn't. I didn't have the drive. Well, I had the drive. I didn't have the courage, I guess, to take the risk. Even if it didn't turn out well, I wish I'd tried at least. So I still had the watch on that he offered the man from the future didn't want. That was one of the first action, well, not the first, one of the action scenes. He got beat up pretty bad. Poor Nick. He takes a beating in this movie. Matthew Paul again, being a team player. Matthew Paul is played by Peter Harrington, by the way. Fortunately, he's not on the commentary with Matthew Brew and Bonnie Pritchard and David Giancola. I wish he was. He's not in the bonus interviews either, which is a shame. I would have liked to have heard from him too. Also, I read online that the initial screenplay they were supposed to be jets, not single-engined prop planes, but budgetary reasons forced them to, you gotta use what you got, so they became Cessnas.
I figure we'll go back to the morning before I give the demo to Robertson. That ought to give us enough time.
See, this is one of those neat things about time travel that time travel gets to play around with. You gotta go back in time and meet your past self. I mean, they did that in Back to the Future Part 2. Marty goes back in time, back to 1955, sees himself playing Johnny Be Good. And Nick Miller's going to do that here, try to convince himself not to sell the Gen Core because of the evil company. And then one of the cut scenes from the MST3K version, that's in this version, is that Gen Core actually owns a lot of the town. A lot of the people work for Gen Core. So why would they want to put them out of business? Why why take the risk in tarnishing their reputation? Because we might pay for it, and so a lot of the other townsfolk. Kind of in the way that most of the people in the movie Gung Ho worked for the auto plant that later became Asan Motors. The town died. You saw what happened there. So they don't want the town to die here. But see, they're in love now. And with those, I think with those cut scenes, their love affair was a little bit more poignant. I think it was a bit of a detriment to Lisa's character. But she's about to die. Sorry, I hope I don't spoil anything for you.
Okay.
Not bad effects for the time. For no budget, and 1990. Not that bad. And he's a pretty good shot. He's shooting from a moving plane at another moving object in another moving plane, and he manages to kill Lisa with a looks like a Beretta. So, or a Glock. Who knows? She's dead, but it's okay because this was a time travel story, and you know there's another version of her out there anyway. So it'll all be good in the end. There's some pretty good flying sequences for the low budget. Not that bad. I'd still like to visit Vermont, anywhere on the East Coast. I mean, this looks like a beautiful state. Got the action music going on here. And these scenes, according to the commentary, these scenes inside the plane here, they're not actually flying. They're just on the tarmac, shaking the plane, rocking the plane back and forth, which works. You know, it's a low-budget technique, but it works. Kind of like, you know, in the old movies of the 60s, they'd have rear screen projection in a car. It looks like they're going somewhere, but they're not. Nick really does take a beating. This is the one of 2 times he jumps into a body of water. He's going to pull out a gun here. And maybe I missed something, but I don't know where he gets the gun from. Oh, JK's coming back. It's got everything. It's got planes, it's got speedboats, it's got love, it's got bike chase scenes, and it's going to have the Revolutionary War here in a minute. Considering the low-budget nature of the film, I wonder where they got this speedboat from. I wonder if it was someone in the cast or the crew who had it, you know, if they just rented it for the day. I don't know. You know, another thing that was kind of teased in the commentary and online, I've read that there might be a sequel to this movie, which I think would be totally awesome. And I don't know if it'll ever come to pass, but I hope so. And the title, which I think is brilliant, is Time Chasers 2, Nick of Time. I think that is the best title in the world. Like, he can't do it. See, he's not really evil at heart like JK. You know, he's got a heart. Sure, he likes the money and the new suit, but Matthew Paul doesn't want to kill anybody. So he's not a real team member. Not part of that team anyway. But yeah, about the sequel, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Matthew Brew, Bonnie Pritchard get back and do a sequel. Apparently, it was written by a fan, if I read that correctly, and so was the title was pitched by a fan. But I guess in the sequel, they were the characters of Nick and Lisa are married, and they have a kid, and the kid has to go back in time or something or other. I can't remember offhand exactly the details, but it involved their kid, I think, in the Gulf War, I believe, something like that. But I thought it was kind of neat. So why not? I'd love to see a sequel. I'd go see it. I don't know if it would come out around here, but I'd go see it, definitely. I hope his watch is waterproof.
Oh, you idiot. I'm in the past.
See, he's in the past, so it's not all at a loss.
Lisa's alive in the past.
So Lisa's not really dead.
So long as my
The love of his life.
doesn't give the demo of the transport to Robertson, this can still work.
So, you know, with that cutscene from the beginning, with that prologue, that I really wish would have started off the movie proper, I thought would have just lent a little more credence to their love affair. You know, them kind of growing up together, then accidentally meeting again X amount of years later and falling in love. And I thought maybe it would have been neat if maybe when he initially meets her at the airport to maybe have a flashback. Nick flashes back to them as kids. Just to just remind us, it's Lisa from the beginning of the movie. Oh, she's grown up now. Okay. Great, nice to see you again. Just a thought, I don't know. Just something I thought of while rewatching it. Morty, asleep. Not the best mechanic in the world.
Who's that? I don't know.
But apparently this actor here, let me get his name here. Martin Gigi, if I'm pronouncing that right, playing the mechanic, playing Morty, is a musician, or it was at the time, and apparently had a hectic schedule, so it was really hard to keep him on set. And as a result of his flaky kind of way of being there and not being there, David Giancola had to write him out of the movie. And there's a scene later on, which I'll point out, where he's written out because they just couldn't work around his schedule, because there were scenes they needed to shoot. He wouldn't be there, so they just decided to let's just write him out. Martin Gigi, G-U-I-G-U-I. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, those evil people from Gencor just won't give him a break. Really is a beautiful state. Rutland, the city of Rutland in Vermont, really is quite pleasant. Not at all like the place I grew up in, which is a desert. Pet Supply and Garden Center. Looks like a Yugo. I don't know if that's correct, but that's what it looks like. And this is the only time you see Nick drive in the movie. And what does he do? He crashes it into actually a big rack of bicycles. What do you know? And he comes out unscathed.
What the hell did you do to my car? I don't drive.
It actually crashed that car. That's not an easy thing to do in a low budget movie. You gotta wonder who owned it and if he was happy that they did that. I always found this kind of funny that they get out of their truck and then get on bikes with him to chase him. I always thought that was kind of funny. Well, I guess it makes sense now. They have to chase him through the woods, but it's like, yes, we will chase you on bikes. We can do that. You're not the only one who can ride a bike, sir. You gotta wonder how much these lackeys are getting paid to risk their lives for JK. This is another scene that was cut in the MSC3K version. It goes on a little long, I gotta say, just a tad too long. Could have been cut down a little bit, but it's alright, it's all good. Kind of reminds me of Return of the Jedi, when Luke is on his speeder bike being chased by the stormtroopers on the forest moon of Endor. And yes, it's the forest moon of Endor. It's a moon. Endor is a planet. But yeah, kind of reminds me of that. See? He's not just a physics professor. He's an action star. Just like Luke tossed the stormtrooper into the tree, Nick is going to do the same here. This seems to be the same area they shot the Revolutionary War scenes in, I would guess. Judging by the locale. It looks very similar. Oh, there he goes. Yep. See, second time he falls in the water. See, he just beat the crap out of him in this movie. I'm glad Matthew Rue came through unscathed, but yeah, he really took a beating. You know, they had no stunt people to save money, so. All right, this is the past Lisa. This is a first tangent that takes place. You know, one of those paradoxes, well, tangents that occurs because this Lisa was initially supposed to go and meet Nick at the airport because of the skydiving grandmother scoop she got. But now that story was tossed aside because of this plane crash. And that's one of my favorite lines in the movie. Can you tell how old they are? Are you able to tell how stale bread is after it's been toasted? She, look on her face. She realizes that Nick was the owner of the plane, and she assumes the person on board. And then she says, "Wait a minute, Nick, that's my friend from childhood. Wait a second." As you can see here, tangent has been going on. In the original history, Lisa was with Matthew Paul and Nick as they went to the future. But in this tangent, only Matthew Paul went.
Fine, I'll be ready.
Great. Oh, and Nick, in the meantime, don't.
They're setting up
and I mean anyone. Trust me.
the end of the movie, which is going to be JK coming up again to look at it, but to look at the time transport, only to be fooled and shown his skydiving grandmother. So they have no idea. They've already actually met. Kind of, but not really. These two are just meet in passing. And that is a K car. It looks like another Yugo. Nice shot through the fence. See, these are not the two characters we've come to know throughout the whole movie. These are the past versions of them.
I'm good. It's been what, since the reunion?
It's time travel.
Nick, I'm sorry, you must not have heard yet.
You notice the same lines. It's been what since the reunion? Yeah, because he's...
I was called to...
Yeah, he doesn't realize things have changed because this is a past Nick.
Crashed over by the lake.
What? What are you doing?
Now she thinks it's the grandmother.
Exploded on impact. I'm sorry, I thought
The
you
skydiving grandmother being his grandmother.
Died when you and I were kids.
That's right. But you called the paper.
I was just trying to get someone to come out and take a look at
The
this.
plane was registered to you. It was one of your planes.
Oh, look at the numbers. That's going to be important here in a second.
Registration numbers N5058C.
That's right.
Something's fishy here. Now let's go back and look at the plane crash. And it's a real plane crash. From what I've heard. Apparently they dragged the wreckage around to various places, I guess. But there was a real plane crash and they used it. Back to the present Nick, future Nick in the past, present Nick in the past. All he wants to do is save his love now. He's got to save Lisa. The plane's gone.
Oh, where the hell is my plane? Well, Nick.
But here we get JK. And look at that. Matthew Paul's wearing the same outfit as JK. White shirt, red tie, red Satan. He's Satan in training, I guess. So I guess this JK convinced the lackeys of the past, lackeys of Jankor of the past to go along with him. I guess they would know the difference. I mean, he is the J.K. Robertson they know, but they don't know he's from the future. Take him back to the past. That's it. Take him back to the past. Which is a good way to make use of available resources. We'll talk about that when we get there, but there's another scene that was cut from the MST3K version. The character of Morty trying to make a break for it. This scene here was also cut down in the MST3K version. We get a little bit more insight into Matthew Paul, into him feeling a bit sorry for what he's doing as we see him pointing the gun.
He knows enough to disrupt your past self.
You're gonna kill us.
I'm gonna make you a part of history.
You part of history. Oh, look at that date. July 7th, 1777. Going back in time to the Revolutionary War. But this was the, coming up here. This scene in the plane is the scene I was just mentioning that was cut down for time constraints from the MST3K version. Making us sympathize a little bit more with the character of Matthew Paul. Yeah, you know, he just wants a promotion. He just wants to make a little bit more money. You know, he's seduced by the dark side of the Force, unfortunately. It's the way the cookie crumbles. But he's not such a bad guy. Back to the past versions of him. They don't know where he went. He's been taken. Morty's been taken by JK.
Absolutely incredible.
Marty!
Where's the phone?
And if I remember correctly, if I read this correctly as well, about the MST3K version, someone from the cast was actually supposed to appear on the show. I don't know if that's true or not. Peter Harrington, who plays Matthew Paul, was, I guess, supposed to appear in one of their scenes, one of their skits, and I guess through scheduling he could make it. But that would have been fun to see. I've seen other people from other Mystery Science Theater movies make little guest spots on the Mystery Science Theater show, so it would have been nice, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And you know, David Giancola has been very open about the MST3K thing. You know, he was a fan of the show before his movie got picked, but he was just pleased as peaches his movie was getting picked up. It was going to be broadcast across the country. But he's very warm-hearted about it, and he's okay with it. He has a sense of humor. It's just very gentle about it. That's really cool, and a lot of people might not react so well to that, you know, being mocked. But he was a good spirit about it. He still is, and apparently still gets emails today, you know, 20-some-odd years later about this movie. People not just from seeing it on Mystery Science Theater, but just from its original release and just on cable or whatnot, which is, I think, is really great. It's another testament to the spirit of determination. But here we go. We're back in the past of 1777, the Revolutionary War, and apparently this is true. There was only 2 battles fought in this war. They were fought in Vermont. And so this does make sense. As you see, Matthew Paul back there is a little timid. He doesn't want to go along with this, but he's kind of being led there on a leash by J.K. Robertson.
You know what you do to us doesn't matter. We've already disrupted the time flow. You think so? The hangar was empty, but I never took a flight in the transport before I gave you the demo.
That's right. I told Nick not to tell anybody about the transport until you saw it.
Well, even if we did affect the demonstration of the transport...
But as I said, this was making a good use of resources here. Considering the film's limited budgets, you know, why not, you know, go back to the Revolutionary War and shoot them during one of their battle scenes? You know, hire some well, they didn't hire them. I guess these reenactment actors were already doing this, and they had a contract with them to shoot. So, you know, why not use that to their advantage? You know, production value right there. That's pretty smart. You know, use what you have. So they did that, and hey, it works.
Thereby killing me? Or what else? Or you could affect history.
Made another, I think he made a reference to the grandfather paradox, a famous trope of time travel.
You are history. JK,
were just gonna leave them here.
Yeah, the Revolutionary War battle depicted in the film is the Battle of Hubbardton, which took place on the 7th of July, 1777. The only battle of the American Revolution fought in Vermont. That's pretty cool.
No, I know. But I can't be a part of it. I'll wait back at the transport if you want me to,
But hey, you know, makes sense. Take him back to the past, kill them there. Who's gonna notice? I mean, their clothes might look a little funny, but hey, it works.
I changed my mind.
But Matt's fired here. You're fired.
Now, what were we talking about?
Whoops.
Ah, yes, history.
Put that weapon down.
Whoa, Minutemen! Correction, they are pissed Minutemen.
Lisa?
Minutemen.
I told them the truth, Robertson. The truth? They know you're a spy.
Apparently, some of these reenactment actors, I don't know about these gentlemen on screen, were a little difficult to deal with. Gave the director a bit of a headache. A little bit more about Minutemen. They're members of teams of select men from the militia during the Revolutionary War. They provided a highly mobile, rapid deployed force that allowed the colonies to respond immediately to war threats, hence the name. And they were among the first people to fight in the Revolutionary War. Their teams constituted about a quarter of the entire militia. Imagine that. Well, look at J.K. here. J.K. Robertson. He's a real hands-on executive. I like that about him. I like hands-on executives. I was, in management at one point in my life, as I'm sure lots of people were, and I was more of a hands-on guy. I think employees respect a hands-on manager. Wouldn't mind getting his hands dirty, getting down and dirty with the rest of the blue-collar workers to show that, hey, I'm just a regular guy, and I don't mind getting my hands dirty every now and then. Actually, he's got a lot of cover. I always found that a little odd, but...
By the way, did I thank you yet?
This scene is pretty well done, considering they shot this all on weekends. Look at this, look at this. Look at this zoom. Look at that close-up. Not a zoom. Must have been really hard to rack focus on that shot. He walks literally almost right into the camera, and they don't lose focus. That must have been really difficult to pull off. Oh shit, there you go. The only expletive in the movie. Didn't necessarily need it, but doesn't that guarantee at least a PG rating? I think so. Now, I actually read or I heard that the cast and crew were chasing the Revolutionary War actors around Virginia. This wasn't all done in one location. That guy looked a little bit more like Peter Pan, but that's all right. Not all in one location. That they were kind of searching and following them. So it was different groups. So that kind of makes me wonder is maybe why some of these guys are dressed differently. Some guys you see are wearing kind of the more appropriate, well, what we see in our minds is the more accurate textbook picture of what I still can't pronounce that word, colonial officer would be wearing. The kind of, white and then on blue, white pants. But a lot of them you'll see are wearing kind of, I made that joke, one of them looked a little bit like Peter Pan with the green, some wearing all brown, but maybe that's how it was back then, you don't always have uniforms made for you.
Discovered your plane crash. I know that she was on the plane with
Running into your past self here. It's kind of sad for Nick, meets the love of his life again after so many years and realizes, hey, it's all gonna go by the wayside because you have to preserve the timeline. Yeah, they convinced the revolutionaries here that he was a British spy. So they're the redcoats. See the uniforms? This is more of what we're used to. See the red on white, just like we knew the British dressed back then. I guess it'd make more sense that the rebels would be more rough and tumble you know, they wouldn't have all the money of the British Empire at their disposal, so you might see some of them not appropriately dressed. That makes sense. I guess it is more historically accurate than I would have imagined. And here's the scene I mentioned where they write out the character of Morty. That's not a bad shot either. Transitioning from past Nick to future Nick. You know, that kind of cross, that pan over. Not bad. They wrote him out. He said, I'll just sit here on this log until you guys are done poking around, because I don't want to die. Just so they don't have to deal with his wishy-washy schedule. Here, I didn't mention the other scene. These aren't bad considering, you know, the time this movie was made. The split screen effect, not that bad for the budget, you know, as well. Poor guy gets thrown off his horse. Nick can do everything except drive a car, it seems. He can fly a car, he can ride a bike, ride a horse. Pretty much on the go, but driving a car, not really in his wheelhouse. The only other movie I remember offhand that addresses the Revolutionary War is The Patriot. And that had Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger. Not a bad movie, but it's the only one I can remember offhand that's focused on that war. Maybe The Last of the Mohicans, but that wasn't necessarily about the war. I believe that was the Revolutionary War with the Mohicans. Or maybe not around that time period. Maybe not the Revolutionary War. Maybe the French and Indian War. I'm not sure. But yeah, these for reenactments, this looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. I mean, I've been to one once. It wasn't a Revolutionary War reenactment. It was a Civil War reenactment, and I was so young. I think my parents had to explain it to me, exactly what it was that I was going to be seeing. You know, that wasn't real. That, you know, these people weren't really shooting at each other and dying. That it was just all kind of theatrics. You know, they would act like they'd been shot and fall, and I still have this picture in my mind of seeing someone shot for the first time and falling to the ground, and felt really bad for the guy. My parents told me he was okay. But JK is a pilot as well. I never really addressed that, but you can see that's kind of a stunt double there, flying the plane, but hey, that's okay. But I guess JK is a certified pilot too, but they never really addressed that. Now, one of the things I found out while listening to the commentary, before I listened to it, I had a guess about how they pulled off this particular shot coming up here. Right here, you see Nick hanging off the wing of the plane, and I was like, you know what? I bet if I were strapped for cash, what I would do is hang, you know, a wing off of a moving vehicle or something, like over a road. You know, over like a bridge or something like that, to make it look like they're in the air. And I was like, that seemed like it'd be a credible thing to do. And listening to the commentary, I found out that's exactly what they did. They had a wing of a plane, and they went out on a road. It wasn't a bridge, just on a road, and hung the wing over the side, and had Matthew Brew get on the wing and have him hang out there. He wasn't strapped in or anything, so it was still dangerous, but he wasn't hundreds of feet in the air. But there was a nice moment that passed a little bit ago. This countdown lasts for a really long time. But time slows down in tense moments, I guess. There was a nice moment that passed I didn't comment on, when the future Nick kissed the past Lisa, and then the past Nick was kind of like, huh? What's this all about? You think he would have been like a little happy about that, smiled, hey, we're gonna hook up later, that's pretty cool. And no, he did not steal this scene from Jurassic Park. I know that kind of became an internet rumor, probably, thanks to the guys over at MST3K, along with the Lisa Kudrow thing. No, that's not her, and this was done before Jurassic Park. So I think Jurassic Park came out in 93, this was made in 90, so this was a few years beforehand. See, from each scene, he just keeps getting more and more beat up every single time. That poor Castleton shirt. Yeah, he's really sporting that hockey hair, though. That's something I haven't commented on. That was I don't think I knew anybody in my life growing up that had hockey hair. Or a mullet, I guess. I guess they're interchangeable. I kind of like hockey hair better, but I don't think, only much later in life, maybe in my 20s, that I'd meet someone who had a mullet or hockey hair. So, yeah, to me, this always looked a little odd. When I first saw this, like, that's kind of a weird do he's got there, not knowing exactly what it was. Yeah, this movie just loves to beat the crap out of him. And there's more of the wrecked plane that they actually had to hoist that. Look at this. He's beat the crap. He's just covered in blood and dirt and grime and sweat. It's like they wouldn't let the poor guy shower. But, yeah, they had to drag that plane, that wrecked plane all around with them and had to hoist it up into that tree. Probably not an easy thing to do. And look how messed up Nick is, but JK's only got blood on his arm. That's about it.
Oh, Nick. You should have just...
They're having a man-to-man, mano-a-mano talk.
At least still be alive. You'd be a millionaire by now. Both of you could have lived to a ripe old age.
This is where it all comes back, full circle. Remember the coffee cup? Remember the coffee cup back at Papa Gino's? You know, we're all connected. Coffee cup stirs, many spoons stir. We're all connected. One thing affects another.
We're all connected.
But JK's bitter, you know. He said he could have gone back to a distant past, lived to a ripe old age with Lisa, had children. Well, he didn't say that, but they could have. Yeah, connect me to this. You know, I wonder if the sound of the gun triggered the collapse of the plane, like the vibration of the sound waves. You know, kind of broke what was left of that branch. So there, Nick is dead. So both Nick and Lisa do in fact die in this movie. And that looked a little bit like a thumbprint there, but that's cool. So all that's about to be erased, it's all moot. Or is it? Yes. It wouldn't have happened at all. None of that would have happened at all. Look, we're resetting the clock here. He doesn't show JK the time transport, the TTP. And I believe that's supposed to be the cabbie. He has a different job now in this altered history. Although it hasn't really been altered yet. I'm guessing, because it doesn't alter till here. He's supposed to show JK, but he's not now because his future self has convinced him otherwise. Don't sell the JK.
Mr. Robertson, can I
The part of this ending, it's kind of sad. I mean, it is a fulfilling ending, but poor Matthew Paul, poor Peter Harrington, his character just gets the shaft. I mean, he said in the plane, when they were going to 1777, all I wanted is promotion and to move up in the ranks of Gen Corps, and it's taken me so many amount of years, and finally I'm getting noticed. And oh, there's this goddamn grandmother, as promised from the beginning. It wasn't just a lie. But all Matthew Paul wanted was to move up in the company, to be recognized, to get out of his pink suit, and dress a little bit more like JK. You know, get some recognition. Get some fringe benefits. And he was getting that. He had to play dirty to get it, but he was getting it. And then, yeah, he gets fired. He gets fired. Poor guy. What did he do? He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what happened. All he knows is that this guy, Nick Miller, this guy at the airport said he had a fuel intake, and now he said I have this time machine. He's like, I'm going to show your boss. And he's like, oh, great. This sounds like a great plan. Brings his boss. He says, oh, yeah, I lied about that. I really have a goddamn grandmother. So now he just thinks this Nick Miller guy's out to get him. So poor dude lost his job. So I hope he's okay. But like he said, at least he didn't kill him. But still, he lost his job. And JK doesn't get I mean, he did get killed by the falling plane, but probably didn't get enough comeuppance. Probably would have liked a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe like as he's driving away, like Matthew Paul throws some eggs at his limo or something like that, or someone flattens his tires. You know, show him at Gencor and someone flattened his tires, or somebody throws red paint on him. I don't know, something like that. Just as a coda, maybe. All the floppy disks in the trash. 8 disks hold the keys to time travel. Floppy disks, those things really were floppy though. I think you notice it says maple syrup. Yeah, maple syrup. Well, it is Vermont. Martins. I wonder if that's a big chain. I don't know. Don't have Martins over here. Not wearing the Castleton shirt. Here we go. This is now we've really come full circle. Remember that earlier scene? Well, it's all going to be wrapped up now. They're always meant to be together, I guess. Kind of like the way Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet were always meant to be together in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So we know they're going to fall in love yet again. Well, that was Time Chasers. I just want to thank everyone for listening to me babble on about Time Chasers. It was a lot of fun to give this movie another commentary. As I said, the commentary on the disc is great, but to give a fan perspective commentary was a lot of fun. And I hope that if you hadn't seen it, that I got you to watch it, take a look at it, and see what a fun movie it really is, and all the good things they managed to pull off on a pretty tight budget. And kind of in conclusion here, just to wrap this up, I just want to reiterate again just how much I admire everyone involved in making this movie, from the cast to the crew, to everyone involved, to David G. Cola himself. Just how much admiration I have just for the willpower they had and determination they had to get a movie made. I mean, it all starts with an idea. You have an idea. I want to tell a story. What kind? Time travel with airplanes. Okay, how are we going to do it? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. Who's going to be it? I don't know. We're going to have casting calls, but we're going to figure it out. At any one of those points, you could have stopped and just thrown in the towel and said, oh, this is going to be too hard. This is going to be too hard. We don't have any money. Yeah, it's going to be too hard. No one's going to want to be in this movie. It's not worth it. But it totally is worth it in the end, even if nobody sees your movie. Even if only your family members see it. It doesn't matter. The point is, you went out and you tried, and you gave it your best shot. And sometimes, maybe it won't work out. I mean, maybe sometimes you look back and said, I could have done better. I could have done better. I'm going to try again. But here, they tried and it worked. They came up with a pretty good movie. But in closing here, I'd just like to quote one of the critical review quotes. It says, this film proves that you don't need $100 million budget if you have imagination and a good story. So there you go. You don't need all the money in the world to go out and make a movie. If you have camera, willing actors, and an idea, and a hell of a lot of courage and determination, you can do anything. Just like Martin McFly said. It's George McFly, sorry. Marty McFly. George McFly is his father. Just like George McFly said in Back to the Future, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. So I have a lot of respect for that mentality. So, all right, that's about enough of that. So, again, I just want to thank everyone for listening. This has been Josh of the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy. Good night.